Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning in to my YouTube channel where you can get entertainment, vlogs, reviews, perspectives, and so much more. As you may know by now, Netflix has released a documentary called Reality Check Inside America's Next Top Model, where some former contestants and judges have shared their experiences during their time on the show. Today, I want to share my thoughts on the 3-episode docuseries. Let me first say that this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. To be respectful of the guidelines of YouTube, I will say SA or SH, or I may just say abuse or harassment. If you or someone you know have had similar experiences in dealing with SA and or SH, please know that you don't have to fight through it alone. A qualified professional can help you in the process of healing and reclaiming your life. I do believe it's important to understand the meaning of SA and SH so that we can properly identify them and take the necessary steps in dealing with such situations. On my channel, I've never wanted to do tea videos involving gossip and drama of the celebrities I talk about. Maybe it doesn't get me as many views and attention as other channels, but I really believe it's important to have something positive to balance out all the negative stuff we hear. It's really damaging and just adds to a world that is already oversaturated with toxicity. I don't want to contribute to that. I believe too much negativity makes us bitter, cynical, and harms our ability to believe in people or in anything good. I wasn't going to watch the documentary because I didn't like the thought of people trashing Tyra Banks, but I knew I couldn't be uninformed. I'm going to be as objective as I can in this breakdown. Please know there will be spoilers, so just in case you may not have watched it yet, you might want to go watch the docuseries first before joining this discussion. If you like this type of content, please tap that like button. Leave a comment. I would love to know your thoughts and reactions on this topic. But please be respectful. And now, with all that out of the way, let's get to it. So I've been a big fan of America's Next Top Model since the first season. By the time it came out in 2003, I was married, had my first child, and was expecting my second. I was completely immersed in marriage and mom life. Also, I had passed the age limit. As far as I remember, the girls were late teens to early to mid 20s. At one point in my earlier years, modeling was one of the things I wanted to do. I don't know if I would have been selected as a contestant on Top Model, but I would have tried out. I found what some of the girls went through with their insecurities to be very relatable. I loved how Tyra always made sure to have a plus size model among the contestants. She made sure to choose girls that didn't necessarily have what the modeling industry considered to be the most perfect features. She and her team fixed them up, taught them things they otherwise wouldn't have learned, and gave them the opportunity to make their dreams come true. At least that was the basic plot of the show. I was not a fan of the drama among the girls in the house. That was my least favorite thing about the show. My most favorite thing was the photo shoots. I loved to see the results of the pictures when they were in judging. I felt like Tyra did a lot to educate those girls, to give them the tools they needed and prepare them for what they would have been dealing with out in the professional modeling world. I don't think there was any indication of or promises to hold anyone's hand to physically walk them through their careers and help them become successful. The person who won the prize at the end was supposed to have more of a leg up than the other girls, but it was still up to that girl to carve her own path if a modeling career was what she truly wanted. Some of my favorite contestants from Cycle 3 went on to have great success in their careers. Eva has done movies, television shows, and even radio. Yaya, the runner up for that cycle, has also done movies and television. Takara has acted, done modeling, and even appeared in a music video. I got a chance to meet Takara in a grocery store of all places. I think she was kind of caught off guard having someone recognize her in her regular element, but she was gracious and kind to me. There are others as well, many others who enjoy success, but this is just to name a few. Can I say there were some things I didn't like about the show that I felt were unfair? Absolutely. For an example, Danielle, who won Cycle 6, was threatened with elimination if she didn't let them fix the gap in her teeth. But in a later season, there was a Caucasian girl that they widened her gap to make her look like the model Lauren Hutton. They did talk about that in the documentary. The part they didn't talk about was that Danielle was also told that she needed speech therapy for her thick southern accent. But in another season, there was another Caucasian girl where they actually played up her accent. I felt that was so unfair. In the docuseries, you could tell that Danielle did get coaching for her accent. We also got to learn what happened in Danielle's life and career after the show. She stated that she was being purposely pushed aside and held back because of having been on Top Model. She talked about having gone through many years of struggle after the show. What made matters worse for her was a phone call she said she received from Tyra telling her that there were doors that Tyra knew would not be open for her, and yet she did nothing about it. I wondered, why would Tyra call her and tell her that? What was the purpose of adding to Danielle's suffering? Could it have been an incomplete conversation? Did Tyra say anything besides that? It just seemed really mean that she would say that to Danielle and not try to help her in some kind of way. It also makes me wonder about the contract the girls won. Obviously, there was no deal struck up with the agency that the winners would actually receive work towards the $100,000 prize they were promised. I wonder how many of the girls did receive anything. The winner of the first season, Adrienne, has said on social media that she didn't receive everything she was supposed to get. The reason I didn't want to watch the docuseries is because I thought it would feature some of the former contestants who have been very vocal in their criticisms against Tyra on public platforms. Some of the main people who have come out against Tyra over the years were, for the most part, people who did problematic things on and off the set of Top Model. The one who started the firestorm against Tyra was Lisa D'Amato. She first competed on Cycle 5. She didn't win that season, but she was invited back for All Stars Cycle 17. That season, she ended up winning by default. I'll get to that in a minute. After her time on Cycle 17, Lisa wanted to get some pictures she took during her time on the show to use for a creative project she was working on. When she didn't get what she wanted, Lisa seemed to make it her life's mission from that point on to trash Tyra Banks every chance she has gotten. For some people, it's not enough for them to hate you. They feel the need to recruit other people to hate you as well. So she started getting some of the other girls to trash Tyra. One of them was the girl she initially lost to in All Stars, Angelique. Lisa's actions toward Tyra got so bad that Tyra ended up blocking her from social media in 2023. Angelique, who first competed on Cycle 14, then was invited back for All Stars Cycle 17, at first was announced as the winner of All Stars. She ended up being disqualified because, by her own admission, she had worked as an escort between the two cycles that she competed in. After Angelique's loss, Lisa, who was the runner up, won by default. Most likely, Tyra and the higher ups who backed the show didn't want Angelique's history to be associated with Tyra's brand. So that is possibly the reason Angelique was disqualified and her win rescinded. Angelique was one of the people that Lisa recruited to start talking negatively on public platforms about Tyra. Another person who went on rants speaking against Tyra Banks was Tiffany, the girl who competed in Cycle 4. She is the one that Tyra yelled at for her flippant attitude during judging. If you followed the show, you probably have seen the meme and or heard the quote from Tyra to Tiffany, "We were all rooting for you." Tyra has admitted to losing it and going off on Tiffany. It wasn't just because Tiffany wasn't emotional enough during elimination, which is the way it's being framed online. If you watch the show, Tyra felt that Tiffany was taking for granted the chances she was being given on Top Model, and the fact that Tiffany's grandmother had sacrificed for her to be able to compete on the show. If you look at the audition part of that cycle, Tiffany talked about her grandmother letting her lights get cut off at home to come up with the money for Tiffany to get a bathing suit and be able to compete on the show. Now Tiffany is calling Tyra a bully for having gone off on her. On the Docuseries, they talked about this. They said that much of what Tyra said wasn't aired and that they had to have lawyers on set the next day. Because they didn't show everything, we can't make any judgments about what else was said. But knowing how much her grandmother sacrificed so that she could have a chance, do you still think that Tyra wasn't right to be angry with Tiffany for being so nonchalant and not taking things seriously? Granted, Tyra owned up for having gone too far in how she handled the situation. But when you think about it, imagine how much Tiffany's life and the lives of her grandmother, her son, and her family members could have changed had she put forth more effort during her time on the show. Thinking about the fact that many of the girls didn't have it easy after their time on Top Model, yet some of them were still able to carve out successful careers with the platforms they were given. There was no telling the level of success that these girls, Lisa, Angelique, and Tiffany, could have reached had they directed their time and energy into building the careers they wanted, instead of using it to act out in anger towards Tyra. Even if you feel you are justified in your feelings, you must choose the pathway you want for your life. You either going to give in to anger and be led by those emotions, or turn a negative into a positive and be led that way. I have learned in my own life that it has to be one or the other. It can't be both. Neither Lisa, Angelique, nor Tiffany appeared in the docuseries. When they talked about Tiffany, they used footage from Top Model and from interviews that Tiffany had done. And now I want to talk about Shandy from Cycle 2. This is what made me go ahead and watch the documentary. Some of the people who are commenting about this have said that it looked to them like what happened to Shandy was SA. They didn't use those words in the docuseries, I believe, because that's not what happened. Look closely at everything that happened. In the documentary, Shandy stated that she had drank 2 bottles of wine by herself. She said that the camera people should have pulled her out of there. It didn't look or seem like she was being abused, but she was too gone off the alcohol and weren't in control of her actions anymore. But if it looked to them like she was a willing participant in what was going on, would they have stopped her? It wasn't their job to stop her. It was their job to film everything that was happening. Ken Mock stated that the girls were told that everything they did would be filmed. Her fellow housemates could have stopped her, but it seemed to also look to them like Shandy was consenting to what happened. In the episode, housemate April said, "Hold on, Shandy, you have a boyfriend." It's true that Shandy was very drunk, but she wasn't drunk by herself. They all were drinking a lot that night, including the guy that Shandy was with. On the docuseries, they said they couldn't show everything that happened, but at one point, Shandy was in the shower with the guy. What they did show was her kissing the guy in the hot tub and her putting her arms around him in bed. So it didn't look like she was being forced. When they talked about it with Tyra, she asked Shandy if she cheated on her boyfriend. Shandy shook her head yes. This is why Tyra said to her that she wasn't judging her. From what I remember, when I watched that episode of Top Model, Tyra talked to them about being so far away from home and family, how sometimes the girls could end up basically making bad choices and getting themselves into trouble. So I don't think it should be framed as though Tyra didn't care. She can only respond to the information she was given. It was very hard to watch the part when Shandy broke the news to her boyfriend. When she told him, she didn't say she was abused. Her words were, quote, "I did the worst thing I could possibly do." So she was admitting to cheating. On the docuseries, Shandy said the cameraman and sound guy apologized to her for having to film that moment. I don't remember seeing this part on Top Model, but Shandy said in the docuseries that she was also filmed calling the guy asking if he used protection and if he had any diseases, which was also hard for her to go through. But she never asked the guy why he did what he did to her, so that's why I believe it wasn't abuse. In my opinion, I think Shandy feels bad that she made the mistake of cheating on her boyfriend. I don't know if she has had therapy to help her heal from the experience, but that's what it sounds like would be best for her. It sounds like she hasn't forgiven herself, even after all these years, for hurting him and ruining a relationship that she really wanted to be in. I do hope that she does take that step in talking to someone because she should get healing and peace about what happened for herself so that she can move on from it. She seems to be a good person. Sometimes even good people make bad choices. On her boyfriend's part, he did patch things up with her. He even moved to New York with her and remained supportive while she continued to pursue a career in modeling. But Shandy said she couldn't take it when people were walking up to her right in front of him and insulting her when they would be out in public together. Now, I'm sharing some videos, some clips of videos in the description box. So I would encourage you to go to the description box and look at those videos and make your own decision about, do you think it was SA? I really don't think it was. And there's also some footage of interviews that she had done where she was actually laughing and talking about it and admitting to cheating even before she went on the docuseries. So I encourage you to watch those videos and see for yourself. Okay? In the docuseries, Shandy talked about her appearance on Tyra's talk show. She talked about what happened. I didn't like that Tyra rolled the clip and talked to her about not wanting to watch it after Shandy asked her not to when they were behind the scenes. I think it was bad to make her relive that very dark moment in her life. Just because it made what they call, quote, good TV doesn't mean we shouldn't listen to people and honor their feelings. Now, what happened with Kenya could most definitely be SH. Kenya from Cycle 5 continuously made it clear that she wasn't interested in the guy, Bertini. He continued to make advances, and even while they were doing the photo shoot, he was touching her, breathing on her, moaning in her ear, and making her feel completely uncomfortable. When she stopped the photo shoot, her feelings were not being respected. She was basically told to deal with it. She continued to shoot as best she could, but she was afraid that it would make her not be able to advance in the competition. She was worried about how her pictures would look and if it would show up on her pictures that she was bothered by what happened. So that was not handled well at all, and they all deserve to be called out for how they handled that. Another thing that was talked about in the docuseries, which is something that cannot be escaped in the modeling industry or the entertainment industry as a whole, is the topic of eating disorders, or ED, as we'll call it here. I do believe they tried to deal with this topic during Top Model's run, but it seemed to follow them there anyway. Some of the girls ended up dealing with ED and negative body image. When I wanted to model growing up, my oldest sister convinced my mom to take me to this so-called modeling school where you can get the training to become a model. I didn't get to go for two reasons. One, my mom felt that it was too expensive. And two, the lady turned me around, looked at my butt, and was getting ready to tell me how much weight she thought I needed to lose. I was 12 years old and very skinny at that point. Hearing this lady say that gave me a complex that has followed me throughout my life. It's all over the entertainment industry. Women have had that pressure put on us for generations. So in my opinion, it was inevitable that it would show up on Top Model. I think it's just girls and women being around other girls and women and comparing themselves to one another instead of being supportive of one another and appreciating themselves for who they are. But I do think it was right that they called it out on the show, since some women who watched talked about seeing it on the show and it affecting them. While Top Model is not where ED started, it is something that people can use to bring awareness and where women can take greater look and begin to stand up and say, I don't want to and I'm not going to stand for that anymore. We are all good enough just as we are. We shouldn't have to be compared to someone else or measure up to someone else's standards to be acceptable. On the docuseries, they showed how Kenya was purposely being chided for her weight and eating habits, which, as she stated, was confusing to her because she came from a place where she was considered skinny. I do recall Tyra saying that on their cycle that it was because of the industry. She told Kenya that she was not fat, but they didn't show that part when they talked about it in a docuseries. There was another girl they showed from a different season who was gaining weight during her cycle. That was one of the later cycles, so I don't remember much about it. They didn't even tell us the girl's name in the docuseries, but I think, to be fair, it should be looked at from both sides of the spectrum. I remember one cycle where there was a girl who was so skinny that they actually sent her home for it because you could actually see her bones. And Tyra didn't want to send the wrong message to girls that would be watching. So they actually eliminated her. They sent her and replaced her with someone else. And there was another cycle where the girl who was picked to be the plus size model for that season was losing weight, and they were getting on her about that. They didn't want her to lose weight. They wanted to accept her for who she was. And that I think that was the girl Sarah. But I forget which cycle it was though. In reality shows, editing gets blamed for a lot of the bad things we see that makes for, quote, good TV. But the same can be said for any area of entertainment that is being filmed: movies, scripted television shows, and even documentaries. We can blame the editing for a lot of the things we didn't like in this show, but what about the docuseries itself? Would it be fair to say that they only wanted to point out the negative things that they wanted to call Tyra Banks out for? Is it not better to be fair and look at the whole picture instead of only one aspect? How does it affect our way of thinking when we see and consider everything instead of only the parts that we don't like? Lastly, I want to talk about the judges who participated in the docuseries: Nigel Barker, Mr. J. Manuel, and Miss J. Alexander. I have to say that they were the dream team on America's Next Top Model. When they were no longer on Top Model, it wasn't the same. I was very disappointed to not see them anymore. In the docuseries, both Tyra Banks and Ken Mock talked about what happened when the guys were let go. Tyra said it came from the top, and she believed that none of them ever believed her when she told them that. Ken Mock admitted that it was a mistake to let go of them. Apparently, the top people for Top Model felt that the guys were the cause of the low ratings after the show was receiving. So they made her deliver the blow, which ended up destroying their relationships. From the research I did online, it said that the show began a decline in ratings after it moved from UPN to the CW. The ratings dropped more when the guys were let go. Top Model spent its last two cycles on VH1. It also moved to a different time slot and day than it was originally being shown on. So all the moving around didn't help at all. J. Manuel, Mr. J, talked about how things changed for him on the set of Top Model when he expressed a desire to leave the show because it was no longer reflecting what he believed in. He said he started feeling that way the first time they switched the girls' ethnicities. He talked about how Tyra basically became cold to him and would not uphold the pact that they had made to always tell each other first when there was a problem between them. So he remained on the show for an extra 9 cycles because he was afraid that if he left, he would be blacklisted in the industry. When asked about what she would say to Mr. J, Tyra just said that she should call him. She didn't want to talk publicly about any feelings she had. I hope she does call him and that they can be able to mend things in their friendship. J. Alexander, Miss J, said more through facial expressions than words how he felt about being let go from Top Model and Tyra's treatment of them. He did mention that Tyra hadn't visited him after his stroke in 2022. I wonder if she has just kept her distance because of the tension between all of them after having to let them go. And I'm just suspecting that. We don't know that for sure. But I do hope that she does visit him and that she can even help him with some of his medical expenses. He now has a GoFundMe set up with a goal of $50,000. Now, the last time I looked at it, they had reached about $17,000 of that goal. So it might be more now. As for Nigel Barker, he has stated that he and Tyra have been cordial with one another. And I think he said something about it being mercenary. I do hope that things can be patched up with all of them. Tyra has done interviews over the years where she has taken responsibility for some of her behaviors and the problematic choices that were made creatively on the show. She has even stated during an interview on a talk show that she went on her talk show and did an entire segment addressing what they did wrong on Top Model and apologizing for it. In the docuseries, Tyra teased a 25th cycle of Top Model. Now, I love the show. I will still watch the previous seasons, even despite all the problems. But I think they should just leave it alone and do something else. That's just my opinion. Learn the lessons from the mistakes of the previous cycles and seek to do better. Not only in whatever show she chooses to do, but in how she treats people as well. So here are some questions I have. Are we so cynical that we can't believe anyone that apologizes for their wrongs? I believe that it's important now more than ever that we look at the whole picture when we see wrongs done, instead of only seeing one side. I believe that we should look at every factor in the situation before considering whether someone is guilty and calling them a bad person. For all we know, it could be out of a person's anger that they are trying to ruin someone's reputation, life, and career. Is it fair to do that to someone? Would we want someone to do that to us? And what do you do when there are people who won't forgive you when you try to explain, have a discussion, apologize? What do you do when people seem to be fully intent on destroying your character because of their anger? If you have wronged someone, apologized and did everything you could to make it right, and they still won't forgive you, at some point you must go on with your life. I don't think anyone deserves to live the rest of their lives living in the shadow of the mistakes they made and being people's emotional punching bag, especially when they've owned up and tried to make things right. So what about you? Now that you see this different point of view, what are your thoughts on all of this? Leave a comment and let me know. Let's get a discussion going. If you like this video, please tap that thumbs up. Share this video so that others may join in on the conversation. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Facebook for videos like this and so much more. I thank you so much for watching, and I wish all the best to you and yours until we meet again.